Hello, everybody, and welcome to another long overdue episode of the Rebel Broadcast. I'm your host, Tom Oliver, and today I am by myself. We have no guests. It's just going to be me doing a solo podcast to get this thing off the ground for the third friggin' time. Hopefully, this will be the last time I got to relaunch this thing in a fashion where I kind of beat myself up for not getting shit done. But here we are today. Just me. I've mentioned this in the video announcing this podcast, but in case you haven't seen it, I'm planning on doing these once a month instead of a weekly or bi-weekly thing, which I think was the Achilles heel of my previous plans, doing too much. But the whole thing kind of fell apart, especially doing all of them trying to get guests, because getting guests and making sure they can come and be on the show and scheduling that shit can be very much of a pain in the ass, especially when you're doing it every week or every other week. So I'm going to try and do this once a month with myself, get guests when I can, but that's the idea. So this is basically just going to be kind of like my normal videos, but long format, diving deeper into stuff. So today I wanted to talk about the idea of surrender. And what do I mean by surrender? Creative surrender, I suppose. I think one of my biggest problems being an artist for the last 10 to 15 years has been my reluctance to pivot. And what I mean by that is that I've gone into all of my creative endeavors with a vision of what I wanted to do and not giving myself the flexibility to change course and shift directions when things don't work out. I see my path as static and straightforward, and instead of going around the mountain, I gotta go through it, even if that's 10 million times harder, or even if it's outright impossible. It's gotta go through instead of around, instead of under, instead of over, because through is what I decided on when I started. And I think the creative process needs to be a bit more malleable than that. I think things are gonna happen, and when you're starting a project, whether it's something big or something small, something as big as a 10-year project like Sorcerer's Lost is quickly shaping up to be, or if it's something small, just like a single drawing, we go in with an idea, but we're doing something hopefully we haven't done before in some fashion. Even any drawing you're starting, even if it's a single drawing and you've drawn a million drawings, this is a drawing you haven't done before. So when you're going in expecting something, but you don't have all the information yet. So as you're going, I think you need to be receptive to change, receptive to taking a different angle of approach on certain things to better suit the end goal, or just to keep your own sanity if the end goal has to shift a little bit. And in some drawings, it could be I'm going to change the pose from what I expected just because I think it works better this way. Or if it's a big project, I think I'm going to change the medium, or I'm going to change the focus of the story, or I'm going to do a different story altogether, because it's not just about the work. And this is something that's a big problem with me, is that I'm always so focused on, I don't matter, the work matters. I don't matter, the work matters. So I have to kind of castrate myself on the altar of the work, because the work's what matters, and I'm just the guy behind the scenes making it happen. And I'm not going to lie, I still really believe that to a certain degree. I'd much rather be known for what I do than who I am, because I'm going to die and wither away and go be nothing someday, but the work is eternal. The work's gonna last. So I'd rather put forth something that can stand the test of time, that people can enjoy, not for my sake, but just in terms of using my time effectively. I'd rather use my time to create something that's independent of me. So even if you don't like me, you can still appreciate that, than build an entire kind of platform around myself and my ego, just because I'm not a huge fan of doing that. So I do still believe that to an extent. However, you needs to know, there needs to be understanding that because there's a guy behind all of it, the guy needs to be able to work efficiently and work effectively. So sometimes you can't keep sticking to your plan and trying to go through the mountains. Sometimes you have to just surrender and go around and see what's on the other side. It could be something completely different you weren't expecting. Or it could be, you take a little detour and then you get right back on the path and you keep going. That's kind of where I am right now. Ever since I was in middle school, I've had one goal. It's taken many different shapes, many different forms. But the baseline underlying the foundation of all of my artistic pursuits for the last 10 years have been exactly, God, it's more closer to 15 years now. 15 years have been exactly the same. I want to tell a crazy epic of a story. That's what I want to do. I've conceptualized 10 at least in the last 15 years stories that I wanted to tell. And they've never been simple. Some of them have started simple, but they've all spiraled and turned into these crazy twists and turns and epic multi-chapter, multi-arc, big deals. That's just how I envision story. It's just where my head goes when I try and think about these. Like, I have an easier time coming up with a huge, complicated story than I do for a short little one-shot thing. Like, I find that incredibly difficult. Like, how am I going to wrap this up in, like, 2,000 words? Or how am I going to wrap this up in 25 pages? Like, that's just to set the stage as 25 pages. So I have trouble doing that. And my goal has always been the same, to make a big, crazy, epic story. But this podcast is about surrender. Because for the last 15 years, I've not been able to do it. And I don't know why I haven't been able to do it. I don't know why I haven't been able to do it. No clue. And that's depressing me. That's eating away at my mental health. I've gone to bed every night since middle school feeling like a failure, feeling unaccomplished, because I haven't been able to get this goal done. And I'm constantly reading and experiencing and watching people who have. And that's just compounding on the feeling of inadequacy and failure. And something must be wrong with me. How I need to fix this. I need to do something. I want to get this out of me. It's burning in my soul, and I have to get it out. It needs to be done. I have to get there. So I go to bed every night depressed, and I wake up every morning anxious, because I know it's another day that I'm not going to get back, and I need to push forward and try and make that happen. It's this ebb and flow of fearing the future and regretting the past, and fearing the future and regretting the past in 24-hour segments over and over and over again for 15 years. And every day that happens, it's making the task more difficult, because every day the task becomes more and more of a mental boogeyman, you know? The first couple weeks when I first wanted to do my first story, which is a terrible, crappy, generic shonen anime ripoff of Inuyasha, which I will never talk about beyond that one sentence. It was more excitement than anything else. It was just daunting and overwhelming because I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the experience, but I had the desire. That didn't work. Then the next one got harder. Then the next one got harder. Then the next one got harder. I'm just at the point now that I'm working completely 100% off of obligation than passion. The passion's there, but the passion's just smothered by this sensation of you have to do this, not that you want to do this. The want is there, but it's so infinitesimally small. It's basically non-existent compared to the dread and the mental strain of, like, this needs to be done in order for you to be worth existing. Like, my very existence, my very life, my sense of self-worth is completely 100% dependent upon the success of this one goal. That's massive. And it's tearing me apart. But I've been trying to go through the mountain for 15 years. I'm going to do it, 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 I'm going to do it. And it's basically like the guy sitting at the base of the mountain, chipping away with a tool, and then, 2 years later, fuck it, this tool's not working. I'm going to grab a different tool. It's a new story. I'm going to chip out away with a different tool. It's not working. I'm almost 30 years old. And despite working hard for 15 years, I have nothing to my name that I'm proud of. Nothing. That's because I've given 15 years to trying to accomplish this goal. That's doable, but the well has been so utterly poisoned that there's barely any water left at all. It's just toxic ooze of mental cobwebs and garbage. So I made a decision about 2 weeks ago, and it was spurred out of the blue from an unlikely source that I wasn't really expecting. I think it was a Friday, and I've kind of tried the last couple weeks to make Fridays my day off, because I have tasks I do every day, and then I go to work full time. So on Fridays, I have Fridays off from work. And I also said, well, I'm not working my job. I'm also not going to work on my art. Fridays are just the chill day. I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to veg out and just recharge my batteries and kind of reset the schedule. And then Saturday, I'll come out of the gate swinging and keep going until next Friday. So a couple Fridays ago, I decided to play one of my favorite games that's come out recently. It's Guilty Gear Xrd. For anyone not familiar with Guilty Gear Xrd, it's a 3D fighting game, but on a 2D plane. So it's they used to be, the first couple iterations of the game were 2D fighters akin to something like Street Fighter 2, but with much higher resolution 2D sprites. That was kind of its claim to fame back in the day. It was really striking anime visual style and high resolution sprites. Way higher resolution than the stuff Capcom or SNK were using at the time. And just crazy, outlandish character designs. But with Xrd, the third major revision of the game, they used the Unreal Engine to make 2D anime look on 3D models. So the 3D characters were high resolution, high texture, like very detailed, but they moved in 2D space, and even they animated like in frame by frame to look more like 2D characters. You can just look up a trailer if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about. I was playing this game. I've played this game for a while. It's been out for a couple years. I play it on and off, not competitively or anything. I just play against the computer because I have fond memories of playing the first two games back in middle school and high school and stuff like that. Just playing against the computer, having a good time, playing some of my favorite characters, getting nostalgic to a degree. And it just tickles a little fancy that's been in my mind for years. Ever since 2006, I've always wanted to get more into 3D. I mean, you guys know I do a little bit of 3D. I did some 3D environments for some Sorcerer's Lost stuff. I've done some 3D things for some art pieces. But there have always been environments. I've never really done characters. And the reason I've never done characters is because every time I've tried, it's been too hard. So fucking hard. It's so difficult. I don't understand how to do this. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be able to do it. And I give up. But ever since 2006, when I found this guy, M. Strange, and he did the movie We Are the Strange, a full animated feature film in his basement, then did two more in the next 3 or 4 years. I've loved the idea of doing 3D. I also really like the idea of low poly 3D. The way people are really nostalgically invested in 8-bit aesthetic. I'm very invested in the nostalgia of like the blocky PS2 aesthetic. I really like that. So that's something I've always wanted to do, and it's always been on the back burner of my mind, but I've never really given it any attention because I don't think I'm good enough, and because, of course, it's all about the story. But the bug wouldn't go away. I think it was back in February when I really got thinking about it. And 2 weeks ago, I just, I've been thinking about it, and I haven't been able to write anything. I've been trying, and the words just don't come. Even when I force myself to sit down, I just keep drawing a blank. But I keep having ideas for 3D, like getting back into it, like wanting to do that again. That passion that's been sitting dormant and coming back in little bits and spurts for the last 10 or so years. I made the decision to surrender. To just be like, okay, there's this voice, this intangible kind of just like presence in my mind that I don't ever listen to that's telling me something right now. It's saying, focus on this. I don't know why. I don't have any end goal with this really yet. I don't really want an end goal with this right now. It's because the 3D that I've done so far, I only shared one thing so far. I've kept it all very private. I haven't tried to promote it. I'm just doing it for me. And the harder thing that I'm still working on is I'm letting the identity of storyteller go. Not completely. I still want to tell stories, but I'm trying to just let go of the idea right now that that's not what I'm working on. And 15 years, I've never, ever let myself do that. I've never been like, you know what? This is on the back burner. this isn't happening. And you guys are probably wondering, who've been following me for years, like, what the fuck are you talking about? You did like fucking cartoon horse analysis for like a year and a half. That entire time, I was still beating myself up for not doing stories at the same time. This is the first time I've just accepted it. I've let it happen. I'm like, you know what? That's not on my plate right now. I still am very passionate about it. But you know what? I'm not there. And that's not a bad thing. You know, every time I'd want to stop doing narrative or just take a break from it or do something else, I wouldn't let myself do it because I would demonize those thoughts. That's bad. You're a bad person. If you don't want to do this, you're giving up on your dreams. You're a failure. You're a piece of shit. You're garbage. And that would be the reaction. I'd kind of just like slap myself back into doing what I was supposed to do, quote unquote, and not let myself kind of have that flexibility, not let myself walk around the mountain instead of continually trying to break through it with tools that aren't serving my purpose. That mentality isn't serving me anymore. It's not helping. I'm just making myself miserable. Because it's wrong. There's no unwritten rule or written rule anywhere that I have to be that. I've told myself that that's what I need to be. I have to be working on this story. I have to be working on this sprawling epic that's going to blow everyone away. That I don't even understand how to fucking do, really. It's a great goal. It's something I want to do. But right now, it just doesn't seem right. This is the first time that one of these little kind of interjections, these little whispers from my muse, if you want to get really fucking philosophical about it, that instead of pushing it away, I've allowed it to come in. I've allowed it to take some space, and I've kind of, to get kind of weird with it, had a conversation with it. Okay, fine. This is what you want me to do? Let's discuss it. And I've just been mentally kind of deconstructing this idea of like beating myself up for having to be something that I've continuously been fighting with. And maybe the problem isn't that I'm lazy or stupid or dumb or horrible. Maybe it's just not the right time. I don't really believe in fate or anything like that, but you know, maybe just mentally, emotionally, that's too big of a task right now. 'Cause I'm fucked up. I got a bunch of head problems, you know, and asking to fucking move a mountain, to fucking carve through a mountain with a pickaxe when you're already fucking broken is a tall fucking order. And this is something I've wanted to do forever. So maybe just instead of worrying about the big giant picture and the 10-year-long plan and the sweeping epic narrative, maybe just focusing on one model. One texture, one rig, and then the next one, and then the next one, and just taking small steps, surrendering to what is and what can be done. I'm trying it out. It's new for me. It's different. It's weird. It feels awkward. Not to be constantly in the back of my head trying to figure out how I'm going to beat the next part of this huge project that I can't even fathom the ending of out of me. I can see the ending of what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a model of Samurai Jack. A low poly model of Samurai Jack because it's a show that I'm really into watching right now. It's from my childhood and I love it. I can see the end of that project. It'll take me another week or so and it'll be done. And then I'll work on the next thing. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be something 3D. I'm going to keep working on my low poly 3D skill. I'm going to get little bits here and there. I'm going to build that up. And that's it. I'm not going to lie. The last 2 weeks, way less stress. Way less self-hatred. And it's opened up my mind and allowed me to do more. I've been more productive doing smaller things. The last 2 weeks I've done video. I've been doing video all day today. Like from when I got up to right now, which was about 7 hours of time working on video. Normally, when I'm trying to get video done, you have to pull teeth just to get one video out. I've recorded 3 videos today. This is the 4th one. I'm going to record 2 more after this. I'm going to start editing. I don't have the energy for that normally. I just get bogged down in the hatred of just like, I should be spending this time working on this big fucking story because it's going to take forever and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just like, I've scheduled out today to do this, and I have the time because the model, the 3D stuff has its time, the drawing has its time, and this has its time. It's taken a weight off of my shoulders in a way that I was not expecting. And it feels really good, not gonna lie. To not fucking go to sleep hating yourself feels good. Now there's still a little bit of lingering, that little voice lingering still of just like, dude, this isn't really what you're passionate about. You're putting off your passion for like shorthand bullshit gains. But you know, it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like a concern, but I don't think it's genuine because I am really passionate about doing this work right now. About doing 3D. About working on these videos and trying to restructure Rebel Pixels into something new, something more effective. I've been doing a lot of research on business, and I'm really into being an entrepreneur. And now that I've freed myself from constantly having to like this mental cloud of working on this story that's going to take forever, I can focus on that. Every day before work, I've been reading a bunch of books on business and taking notes like I'm in fucking school. And running through my head of like how I want to implement these things and build something bigger than I already have right now. It's crazy how much better things have gotten just in the past 2 weeks. Am I like fucking cured of my depression? Jesus fucking Christ, no. But it's the first step in the right direction I've had in years. Years! I didn't think it was possible. And it took giving up the thing that I care about the most. But it's not giving up. It's just shifting focus. It's taking a detour on that path that I didn't plan for. I didn't plan in my starting of Sorcerer's Lost that I was going to take, a year to do the motion comic, then stop and do a year of a comic, and then stop and then do a year of writing, and then stop and do a year of this. Like, none of this was planned. And every time those roadblocks came up, I fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it. And I hated it. And I hated myself for having to fuck it up. But this roadblock, now I kind of feel like doing this 3D stuff for a little bit. Instead of fighting it, I'm like, you know what? Fine. Let's stop. Let's put that on the back burner. It wasn't going to happen anytime soon anyway, because I'm so fucking in my own head with writing that I can't write shit. Instead of sitting here banging my head against my desk for months and months and months before I force something out of me by pure fucking just like self-loathing and obligation that even when it's done, I just fucking hate it anyway. Let's take that same time and let's put it towards something else. Something that's more positive, something that I'm not going to hate myself for, and something that's way less stressful. And just like, take this, put it on the shelf, don't burn it, just put it away, put it in storage, keep it there, and come back to it later when you're ready to do so. It's made a big difference already. In a way that I didn't expect. And I'm kind of excited about what's going to come next. I think this model I'm working on is pretty cool. I think when I'm done with it, if it comes out the way I'm expecting, it'll be pretty cool. I've already made some changes that I wasn't expecting when I first conceptualized the model, because right now, again, surrender. Going with the flow. Things happen, I'm going to let it go. Just going to, okay, this is what's happening. Let's go with that. This is what's happening. Let's go with that. I'm controlling it, but I'm not forcing my direction. It's like sailing. The wind's going to do what it does. And you still want to get to your destination, but you can't fight the wind. You just got to work with it as best you can. And that's what I'm doing right now. As opposed to before, I was like in a paddle boat just paddling against the current, even though I wasn't going anywhere. I was refusing to give up. That's a good analogy, right? I don't know what the message of this episode is. Usually there's kind of like a central topic. I guess my recommendation would be to give this a shot. If there's like a little voice in your head kind of nagging at you to try something new, or if you're just like so overwhelmed, try just like relaxing into it and letting go and listening to see if there's something you might have been ignoring because you were so dead set on chipping through that mountain. If there was a path off to your left or right to let you go around it. You're going to see things on that path you weren't expecting, but it could help. So I think that's all I got for that topic. I think we're going to take some questions. I don't usually do questions on this show, but I left a video up saying people could ask questions either on Twitter or on the video. So we're going to take a look and see what people have been asking. I'll answer anything that seems kind of topical, relevant, or interesting. And from there, we'll wrap it up. Okay. Hitlerius asks, how are you doing lately? I think I pretty much just answered that with this podcast. When did you start losing your childish innocence when it came to drawing? I mean, as kids, people draw every day without noticing their flaws and being proud of their work, but with age, critical thinking happens, and that naive motivation kind of vanishes. I think my motivation for that shit definitely went away. It's hard to say because I drew a lot as a little kid without thinking about it, but once I got to, I want to say 4th grade, and like Pokemon came out, and I got my Sega Genesis and my Game Boy and stuff, I just stopped drawing altogether. The interest completely went away, and I drew a little bit in 4th grade. I remember I drew a comic with my buddy Brendan at the time, and that was still the innocent phase. Like, I wasn't thinking about it, wasn't caring about it. But then art stopped completely for a while. When I got back into it was in 9th grade, and that way I was already like way older and like guns blazing right from the beginning, super self-critical, and that continues to this day. So it's still a work in progress to me trying to find that balance between the childlike innocence of being able to just let your work be what it is and the adult responsibility that like you have to improve, and there's like a social standard you have to live up to in order to be commercially viable or just like aesthetically pleasing. So it's a balancing act, but yeah, it wasn't like something that gradually went away, because I hard stopped art for like 5 years. So I hard stopped in the middle of the innocence and started up right again, and the critical like perspective started immediately. Mighty Pie asks, would you curb stomp a baby for $10 billion if you could get away with it? Well, of course, dude, $10 billion. I'd fucking do it. I'm fucking poor as shit. People are making babies all the time, right? Seymour the Almighty asks, there are tons and tons of good artists on all skill levels out there, so is doing digital art still viable for making a full-time living? Yeah, of course it is. I think there's always room for more voices. It's about identifying your niche and catering to them. The problem with... I'm gonna do way more videos about this in the future. This kind of ties into that reframing the channel that I was talking about earlier. Original art is incredibly difficult to do as a job. It's because it doesn't directly serve anyone's needs but your own, because you wanted to make it and that's why it's being done. It doesn't solve a problem. It doesn't address a desire. So it's very difficult. You kind of have to brute force it with exposure and just raw skill to make a living doing original content. It's hard. It's really fucking hard. This is why when new movies and stuff come out, companies spend millions of dollars on advertising, because it wouldn't really work otherwise. You know, people would just watch the next Marvel movie or whatever, the sequels and stuff like that. I don't want to go too in depth with this, just because like there's other videos I'm planning on doing about it, but it's absolutely possible, but it's difficult. There are other ways you can kind of either circumvent that, make it easier for yourself by changing the kind of content you're producing and who you're targeting with that content, as well as like ways you can supplement your income with other things that make it more easy to be self-employed. But even if you don't, it's doable. It's just hard. Okay. Shell Music FX asks, are you going to be doing any product reviews of things besides tablets? Yes, probably. The reason I do tablets so much is because companies send them to me for review, and I'm very poor, so if I didn't get these things for free, I probably wouldn't be doing reviews of them at all. All I can really review, other than the tablets I get sent in, is what I already own, and I tend to buy things secondhand that are old, which is why a couple months ago, I asked about doing the series Still Worth It, because I have an old-ass Rebel T2i from 2011 and a Surface Pro 3 from 2013, which are older products, and those are things I can review and make videos about, but they're just not new or interesting, or not many people are searching for them. So the perspective would be, are these things still worth using today despite being old? Because I'm all about bargain hunting, because I can't afford $1,000 cameras and $2,000 laptops and stuff like that. So if I review other things besides tablets, that's probably the direction I'll be going. I'll be going bargain hunting and trying to deliver good deals as opposed to reviewing the newest stuff, because I can't afford it. Equalist Damon asks, Who are your favorite artists and most inspirational webcomics? My favorite artists, I got a couple. M. Strange, I already mentioned, he's fantastic. I like Ashley Wood. He did all the artwork for Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novel and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. I really like his loose kind of art style. I really like Jeff Smith. He did Bone. I like his like kind of Disney-esque whimsical artwork. Who else? I know there's a bunch of people I'm just fucking forgetting right now because I'm trash. Let me look at my comic shelf. I mostly like cartoonists. Dave Sim and Gerhard, fantastic stuff. Greg Capullo is probably one of my favorite illustrators of all time. I really love his work. And of course, probably the most influential person on my work would probably be a mixture of Bill Watterson from Calvin and Hobbes and Bruce Timm, from who does like the Batman animated series and Justice League and the whole DCAU. Those guys are really good. Probably more Bruce Timm than Bill Watterson because Bill Watterson's a god and I could only hope to be as good as him. But Bruce Timm, his figures, like really streamlining and simplifying the figure, did a lot to inspire me. Another person similar in that vein was oh god, what was his name? Oh, I just had it and it went away. The guy who did the art direction for X-Men Evolution. That was one of my favorite cartoons back in the day. Stephen E. Gordon. He did the design for that, which is very similar to Bruce Timm stuff, but some subtle differences that I really liked back in the day. Let's see. Ice Killer 159 asks, if you could bring someone back from the dead to have a conversation with them, who would it be? You know, most of the people that I like are still alive. Like, I don't have a lot of historical heroes, I suppose. At least none that really come to mind immediately. I guess the first person I can really think of, and there's probably a better answer, I just don't remember it right now, would be George Carlin. I'm a huge fan of George Carlin's work, and I think sitting down, having a beer with him, and just talking about the political landscape and just the way the world is so fucked up now would be a really entertaining couple of hours. So I'm going to go with George Carlin. Eric Fulton asks, how often when you are working do you actually feel like working? In other words, how motivated are you typically? I'm typically not fucking motivated at all. Being depressed does that to you, which is also why so much work doesn't get done. I'm actually making a video today. It's already recorded, just have to edit and upload it, that addresses something I've discovered very recently about this process, and how to do it better and how to kind of get past the problems with motivation. The video is tentatively going to be titled, Starting's the most difficult part or something to that effect. So if you're watching this later and you want to know what I'm talking about, check out that video. Once it's done, I'll probably annotate it in here if I actually am not lazy. Binary Dude asks, don't you think this whole motion comic idea is counterintuitive and works against itself? You lose the static beauty and flow of sequential art, and you don't allow the reader to choose his or her own time at each panel. You turn it into a pseudo-active passive medium that becomes unappealing to both the comic and animation nerds. I mean, I don't know. I like it. That's why I did it like that. I like the motion, the moving, and I like the comic part. I was really inspired mostly by Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novel, which I very much enjoyed. It's also where I found out about Ashley Wood. But also an older project by M. Strange called Blue Wander, which I think is on YouTube. You can look it up. But it did that limited animation panel sort of things. It was more the Ashley Wood thing because it was an adaptation of a comic. But I've watched a lot of motion comics. I watched all of the Watchmen animated comic, which I really liked. So I just personally like the medium. So if you don't, that's cool. I wouldn't even argue that it kind of does reduce the impact and effect of both animation and comics, but I think it generates something new in return, and I kind of like that. And we're going to close this out with my buddy Give and Take, who asks, what's better, making something spontaneously for the sake of it, regardless of if you have an idea, or waiting for inspiration before you do anything, or planning everything out even if you do have an idea? It's kind of topically relevant to what I was talking about. So I think I think the best thing probably out of those three would be spontaneity. I think at the end of the day, good ideas don't matter, good products do. Ideas are valueless to anyone but yourself because they're just in your head. So the worst thing that's made is better than the best idea, if that makes any sense. You can have the greatest idea that'll change the entire world. It's still less relevant, less important, and less valuable than the shittiest piece of content ever made, because at least that's made and it exists and it's out there, and an idea dies with you. So they're fucking pointless. So that's all I got for this episode of the Rebel Broadcast. Thank you for listening. I will be doing these hopefully once a month. These are how the solo ones will probably usually go. This actually went pretty long. Yeah. So take it easy, guys. I'll talk to you in the next one. Remember, we might be indie, but that doesn't mean that we're alone. Catch you on the next one.